Welcome to this tutorial of microeconomics. I am Paolo Canofari and I am a researcher at the European School of Political Economy at Lewis. During these tutorials, we are going to discuss again the main topics discussed during the lectures, and we will do some example or exercises. This first tutorial in macroeconomics will concern important topics like demand, supply, equilibrium, and elasticities. Okay, we can start with an important topic in macroeconomics, the demand relation or demand curve. The demand relation is an inverse relation which is supposed to exist between the demanded quantity of a given service or good and its price. So we assume that if we have an increase in price, we observe a decrease in the demanded quantity of this good or service. We can visualize this effect considering the following picture, and economics is built on this kind of pictures. We can consider on the vertical axis price of these goods. We can consider, for instance, the demand for coffee, and on horizontal axis the demanded quantity for coffee. Our assumption is that this relation is an inverse or decreasing relation. In order to understand this picture, consider the level of price of coffee equal to P1, which identify a specific demanded quantity which will be equal to, in this case, to Q1. Now, if we have a decreasing price for coffee at level, for instance, equal to P2, so we have this decreasing price, the new demanded quantity according to this relation will be Q2. So we have an increase on the demanded quantity for coffee. We can consider also the effect of an increase in the price for coffee. For instance, we can do this picture again. We consider the relation between price and quantity and the demanded quantity for coffee. This is an inverse relation or a decreasing relation. Suppose that the price is initially equal to P1. This identifies a demanded quantity equal to Q1. Suppose now that we have an increase in the price for coffee at level P2. This means that we have this increase in price, and this means that the demanded quantity will be now equal to Q2, which is smaller than Q1. So we have a reduction in the demanded quantity for coffee. Now, what is true is that this effect of price for coffee on the demanded quantity for coffee can be considered if all other factors that can affect the demand for coffee are considered constants. In economics, we use the Latin sentence ceteris paribus, which means that all other factors that can affect demand are considered constant. In particular, all these other factors, for instance, the average income level or tastes or price of goods or other goods that can affect demand for coffee in this case can be visualized in the following way. In this case, when I repeat, we consider the effect of different factors affecting the demand for coffee. So we have again the price for coffee and the demanded quantity for coffee. This is a negative relation. But when we consider these other factors that can affect demand for coffee, we can observe shift of the demand curve on the right, or as in this case, or on the left as in this other case. This means this depends uh, on the effect that this particular factor has on the demand for coffee. The first case we want to analyze is the effect of a change in a substitute of the good we are considering. So, for instance, a substitute of coffee. What is a substitute? A substitute is a good that can be used, that that can replace the good we are considering. So, can replace in this case coffee. For instance, tea. What is the effect of an increase in price of tea on the demanded quantity for coffee? We can visualize this effect considering again the demand for coffee. Again, we have price on the vertical axis and quantity on the horizontal axis, and this is the demand, the original demand for coffee. What is the effect of an increase in the price of tea, which can be considered a substitute of coffee? This can be visualized as a shift on the right of this demand curve in this direction, and we can easily explain why we have this shift. If we take this level of price for coffee, in the original situation the demanded quantity was equal to Q1, but after the increase in the price of tea, at this level of price for coffee equal to Q1, the demanded quantity will be higher and will be equal to a different value, which is Q2. So we have an increase of the demanded quantity for coffee for each level of price of coffee, because this is true for the level P1, but it's also true for the level, for instance, P2, because in the original situation, so before the increase in the price of tea, the demanded quantity was equal to this level we can call Q prime, but after the increase of the price for tea, the demanded quantity will be equal to Q second, for instance. I think we have to do again this picture. So we are studying the effect of an increase in price of coffee, an increase in the price of tea on the demand for coffee. We have our demand picture in which we have the price for coffee and quantity for coffee. This is a negative relation. What we are saying is that if we have an increase in the price of tea, this corresponds to a shift on the right of the demand curve to this level. And this because at each level of price, for instance price P1, the demanded quantity increases for coffee. So at this level P1, before the increase in the price of tea, the demanded quantity was equal to Q1. After the increase in the price of tea, the demanded quantity will be equal to Q2. So we have this increase in the demanded quantity, and this is true for each level of price for coffee. So we can derive the general consideration according with each increase in price of substitutes will cause a shift on the right of demand curve of the considered good. If we consider a decrease in price of a substitute good, for instance a decrease in the price of tea, what we observe in the demand for coffee, we do again the picture. We have the original demand for coffee. Here we have the price for coffee, the effect of the price for coffee on the quantity for coffee. If we have a decrease in the price of tea, what we will see is a shift on the left of the demand curve for coffee. And this is true because for each level of the price for coffee, now the quantity demanded is smaller. So if we take for example the level of price for coffee equal to P1, before the increase in price for tea, a decrease of the price for tea, the demanded quantity was equal to Q1 for coffee. After the decrease of the price for tea, which caused the shift on the left of this curve, we observe that at price P1 now the demanded quantity for coffee is smaller and is equal to Q2. So we have a reduction in the demanded quantity for Q1 to Q2. But this is true for each level of price for coffee. So we observe a shift on the left of this demand curve as is represented in this picture. A different situation can be observed if we consider a complement. What is defined a complement good? For instance, in the case of the demand for coffee, what is the effect of an increase in the in price for sugar? The assumption here is that if coffee and sugar are used together, if we have an increase in price for sugar, this should lead to a reduction in the demand for coffee. And if we have a decrease in the price of sugar, we will observe also an increase in the demand for coffee. So if we want to visualize this effect, we can consider the demand, again the demand for coffee. Sorry for the picture, I do it again. Okay, and this price. Okay, we are going to do the picture. Here we have the demand for coffee, the price and the demanded quantity for coffee. This is inverse relation, as we know. What is the effect of an increase in the price of sugar, which can be considered a complement for coffee? If we have an increase in the price for sugar, this should reduce the demand for coffee, and we can visualize this effect by a shift on the left of the demand curve for coffee. So this is the effect of an increase in the price of sugar. And now we can understand, because we have this effect, because for each level of the price of coffee we can observe a reduction in the demanded quantity, because there is an increase in the price of sugar. But if we have, instead of a decrease in the price of sugar, in this case what we can observe in the coffee demand, where we have price and quantity, this is an inverse relation. If we observe a decrease in the price of sugar, this means that for each level of price for coffee we will observe an increase in the demanded quantity for coffee. So we can see a shift on the right of the demand curve for coffee, due to a decrease in the price of sugar, which is consumed together uh, with coffee normally.